Sal Berry, and Tim Parish. This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to a special holiday edition of the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. Sal Berry here, along with Tim Parish, a.k.a. The Real DFG on Twitter. And what you just heard a few seconds ago was a little bit of the New York Islanders Christmas album from 1979. Every time Christmas time rolls around, I like to play that album just from start to finish. I actually enjoy it a lot.
That makes one of us.
Yes. So anyway, but what we wanted to talk about today is, not going to really talk about like what's come out or whatever. We want to talk more about like when we remember getting hockey stuff for Christmas. Some of you might have gotten hockey stuff for Christmas or Hanukkah or something like that. And many of you shared your stories with us on Twitter. So we kind of want to go through those stories and then also just kind of tell some of our own stories, because I think it's definitely fun to reminisce about getting stuff you really like for Christmas. Because, when you're a kid and you get socks and you're like, yay, socks. Or like the funniest thing was my grandmother gave my sister underwear, and my sister's like maybe 8 years old, and she just looked at my grandma and said, underwear, how thoughtful. But then my grandma also gave her a card with
like a dead serious look on her face, I'm sure.
Yes, underwear, how thoughtful. I mean, that was just one of those great funny things from Christmas. But then, like I said, my grandma also gave my sister like money for Christmas, because for me it was easy. If it was like 1983, buy me some Star Wars guys. If it was 1985, buy me some Transformers or some He-Man guys. And I was pretty much set for Christmas. And girls are sometimes a little bit harder because if they don't like toys or whatever, you're not sure what to get them. But I think it's always fun when like you get what you want for Christmas, like something that's right up your alley. And it's even more interesting with collectibles because people don't always know what to get card collectors, because as far as they know, you have a million hockey cards. You don't need any more hockey cards. And why are they going to buy you more cards? And they don't even know what to get you anyway. And then they're afraid of getting you something you already have. Although, like, having doubles is not the end of the world for most card collectors. But it's just kind of funny how that works out, right?
That's always the thing, is they don't know what you already have, so they don't know what to buy. So they just figure, well, unless I have that knowledge, we'll go with nothing instead. And
right.
That's been my experience probably most of my life that I've been a collector.
We'll get you something practical for Christmas.
Exactly.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, you want to buy me something practical? Buy me 9 pocket pages, and not the crappy ones either. Buy me the nice ones, or buy me some top loaders.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't need top loaders right now. Buy me some penny sleeves. I run out of those all the time.
I know, man. You should never run out of penny sleeves. I'm almost out of I'm down to. I bought a couple years ago. God, this had to be like 5-6 years ago. It was a long time ago. Some dealer was like selling out his inventory. I think he was just going out of business. It wasn't a store. It was somebody that I'd see at the show in Rosemont, and I bought something ridiculous. Like it was like 100 packs. It was like a full case of Ultra Pro penny sleeves. So I think that was 100 packs of penny sleeves. And I want to say I paid something like maybe $40 for the whole case. So
nice.
It was like 40 cents for a pack of top loaders or penny sleeves. And I was just like,
score.
Yeah, I mean, because it'd always be like, oh, I want to put these common cards in penny sleeves, but I don't have enough, right? Now I had so many of them. It was like, all right, anything 1989 and before is going into penny sleeve. You know what I mean? Like pre-junk wax era is just going in penny sleeves, right? Like I won't waste penny sleeves on Pro Set cards, but like,
yeah, you do.
I don't.
You know you do.
No, I have so many Pro Set cards. The only ones, my Ronick rookies, those are all in top loaders.
Okay.
And like anybody who's kind of significant, like Pro Set Blackhawks, because I'll still like trade those or get those signed or give those to people to get signed or whatever. So I try to keep those nice. But as long as we mention Pro Set, I'll share my first story. I got a couple of stories, and we'll tell some of your stories. But I want to talk about one time I actually got some Pro Set cards for Christmas. It was Christmas of 1990. So by that time, I had already probably finished Pro Set Series 1. I probably had like 2 or 3 sets. And my Uncle Pat, he gave me something, for Christmas. It was wrapped. And I opened it up, and it was like a box of Pro Set cards. But the box had been opened, right? So like the top had been torn off and then maybe it was taped back on and it was missing a few packs. And then he gave me another package and I opened it up and it was like another 6 or 8 packs. And he goes, "Oh, I couldn't find the full box, so I bought whatever they had. But then I found the other 6 packs and I bought those too." So he ended up giving me like 30 packs and then like another 6 or 8 packs. I want to say it was actually more than a full box. And so I was kind of like, thanks. But I was also kind of like, man, I have so many Pro Set cards at this point that I didn't really need anymore. So I remember just sitting there and opening them and just being like, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. I guess maybe I was still thinking I might get a Stanley Cup hologram. But I mean, it was a nice gesture. I still remember that after all these years. And, I did have fun opening the packs. So even though I had, enough for probably 3 sets at that point, I think when all was said and done that year, I want to say I completed 6 full sets of Pro Set 9091 Series 1 and Series 2.
Did you get the hologram when you were opening the packs?
Never. Not one.
Never? Not
Never.
once?
No. All of the ones I bought have been on eBay. Probably the first one I bought, I want to say, was around 2006 or so.
Did you get the Paul Gillis Bloody Nose card?
Not from a pack. And that's funny because when I found out about that card, like many years later on the internet, I went through all 5 of those sets that I had put together, and I went through all of my extras, and there was not one in there. And I was just like, I was so surprised because, like, I literally bought those cards like almost the day they came out, and like even before that, they had a hockey show in Chicago, and Pro Set was there giving out cards, and I just got like a ton of cards that day. So, yeah, it was surprising, but that's one of my hockey stories of getting a gift. Do you want to
So that's pretty. I was going to say that's interesting. That's your first story they bring up because we had a comment of someone online, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name or how it's meant to be sound, but I'm going to pronounce it how I feel like it. And so Dre, who goes by Schmecky10 on Twitter, he said, Christmas of 91, Mom gave me a box of packs of the Pro Set Series 2. The one with the flames on it. My family's Christmas thing was open our stuff Christmas Eve, play with it the next day. Too excited to get into those packs, so no sleep for this guy back then, he says. So what I want to know is how many of those cards were errors and uncorrected errors that came out of that box that he got? And was one of them the Yager rookie? And can I have it if he did get it? That's what I want to know. So if Dre, you're listening, you should let us know. Actually, Dre, I like the masthead that you use on your Twitter page, on your profile. So I too will echo your sentiment and say Slayer. So hail and kill. He'll know what that reference is to.
Yeah,
for those that don't, it's from Manowar, not really Slayer, but he's into hockey and metal, and those two things go together, and beer. So which is cool, and I'll agree with that 100%. So anyway, so yeah, so Dre was getting the same thing back in those days.
Yeah,
too.
Quite a few people mentioned that they got cards. Another guy, LZ41 via Twitter said a box of 93-94 Premier Hockey. Not high-end cards, but those gold foiled name inserts and flag cards were really cool. I ended up getting a nice Brendan Shanahan insert. I'll have to look for it. Also, redemption for a black gold set with Gretzky. So the 93-94 Premier Hockey, there's Topps Premier, there's O-Pee-Chee Premier. It's pretty much the same thing, only the O-Pee-Chee Premier had bilingual backs. I actually tried to put that set together, the Topps version. I remember buying lots of cards that year. I remember getting the black gold redemptions and sending those away. They were just basically like foil cards. And you could get like there was like 12 cards, another 12 cards, and then or a redemption card that would get you all 24 cards at once. And I do remember, yeah, I remember getting that. And then there was also like Team USA inserts and from like the US Olympic team, and in Canada they did Team Canada inserts. But yeah, that was a fun.
Did you put the whole set together?
No, because it was one of those mammoth 2 series, like 264 and 264. You know, I was probably a few cards shy, and I think the reason why was because I want to say my attention was just diverted among a lot of the different stuff that came out that year, because it's like Topps was that year I was collecting Topps, Top Stadium Club, Leaf, and Upper Deck were like those sets that I was like kind of like my attention was split between those sets. And I think I finished the Upper Deck set because they always finished Upper Deck sets for one way or another. I'd either buy the set or I'd finish it. But as far as like the 93, 94, I might have finished Series 1, and I think by Series 2 I just kind of like ran out of gas, and then I just kind of like, why? What, you need a few?
Yeah, I was asking for my own self-interest because for some reason I don't have either of these cards, but I need the Bill Guerin from Series 2 and also the gold one.
Bill Guerin, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
I think
probably
it's number
had it.
461 or something like that.
I probably had it, and I sent a ton of my my old hockey, like from the 90s. I've been sending them to Commons for Kids, that charity.
Oh yeah.
So he probably has them now. So I'm sorry. Had I known, a couple months ago, but I'll keep my eyes open.
That's okay. I'll find it one day. Well, one thing, LZ41, he's got it. He's got it nailed down because his tagline on Twitter is hockey, music, and SNL. What else is there? I agree. Those are three great things. Except I would also add metal, like Dre said earlier, and Go Slayer.
Slayer. I think it's funny though that he was able to open his present but not play with his present. Like open his present but not open his present. Like
yeah, as a little kid opening and then not being able to do anything with it, I'm out. That's not cool.
Reminds me of a funny story. Like one year, my grandma told me and my sister we could each open a present on Christmas Eve, and I was like, all right. So I grabbed a box and shook it, and it sounded interesting, and I opened it. And it was an electric pencil sharpener.
Score!
Again, very practical, but I'm sitting there and I'm just like, oh, I can't play with this. I could sharpen pencils. Like, I used it for like the next 30 years. I mean, I got a lot of use out of it, but...
You take care of your things. I would have definitely been sticking other things other than pencils in there to see if they would sharpen.
They don't. Really, not well.
That's true, because I've done it.
But yeah, you got a story of your own you want to throw in there?
Well, you see, Sal, it's one of those things where, as you mentioned earlier, it's hard for people to come up with things to give the person that they feel already has everything, which I don't, because obviously I don't have the 93-94 Topps Premier Bill Guerin card. But getting cards from people, strangely enough, has been difficult, even though a lot of people know that I collect. It wasn't until I met my current wife that I actually started seeing cards being given as a gift. And it went from having a few packs here and there in my stocking each year to last year I had a few boxes that I got to open, which was really cool and unexpected considering my track record up to that point. So, but a hockey related thing that I can talk about is when I was a wee lad. I'm gonna say this would have been 83, 84-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Got to add the ish because I don't remember the exact date. Um, I played hockey, and I was given a stick and some shin guards and some elbow pads and an old Penguins practice jersey
Mm.
from 1976.
Oh.
And it was kind of raggedy. It had been my dad's, and he had passed it on to me to use when I played at the local rink, which was the Ross Draver Ice Gardens, where I grew up. Which a few years ago, if people follow these things, they won the Kraft Hockeyville
Hockeyville.
competition and actually got money for renovations for the building. And there was supposed to be a game played there, but that building is way too small to host an NHL game. So they always play a preseason game in those venues. But that was pretty cool to see later on in life. I'd be like, I played there when I was a kid. So, and a lot of people did, and it was always cool because we would have players come from the Penguins back then at the time, and most people wouldn't probably remember who they were, but so that was kind of cool. So that's one memory I have. But I know last year I did get to open up some boxes of product, which was pretty cool. I remember it was I had an O-Pee-Chee box,
Mm.
an Upper Deck Series 1 box, and I believe it was a box of SP from the previous year. So it was pretty cool.
When you got that practice jersey, was it like powder blue, like the Penguins colors from the 70s?
Oh yeah, sure was.
Nice.
And it had the old logo on it, with the penguin with the scarf.
Oh my God, the scarf logo. I love that
Yeah,
logo. It's like a
yeah.
fat penguin. It's like it's not like the cool looking penguin that's like the 80s. The 70s penguins had like the scarf. It just looks kind of funny.
And if you look on him, he was kind of taller and skinnier than the one that came later.
Really, because he kind of looks like he has a bit of a gut, whereas
Well,
the
the
newer one,
penguin always does,
yep,
but he's a little more stretched, I think.
yeah.
So it makes him look skinnier. So, but yeah, so that was kind of cool. I would love to receive like lots of card related gifts, but um, it's like feeding. I don't know. It's like feeding somebody their addiction, just like handing it to them. Like, here you go. I'm
Hmm.
enabling you. Well, if you enable me, I'll be quiet.
So, two other quick stories I'll throw out here. Erica from Chicago said that she remembered getting a Corey Crawford jersey in 2013, which would have been a good time to get a Crawford jersey because that was the year that the Blackhawks beat the Bruins for this 2013 Stanley Cup. Crawford, played really well that series. I mean, he was the goalie in that series. So that's a pretty cool gift. And then
Authentic replica, and is it autographed? That would be my questions.
don't know, but it's still
Okay,
cool because
that is cool.
here's the thing: if the jersey is signed, I don't want to wear it. I just want to like protect it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? If it's authentic, it's twice as heavy, and it doesn't need to be that heavy for me to wear to a game. Like I don't, I've played in replica jerseys and they've held up, and I've played in authentic weight jerseys and you sweat a lot more in them because they're twice as thick.
Oh
So when
yeah.
people are like, "Oh, well, it's a jersey and it's an authentic and it has the fight strap," it's just like, are you gonna get into a fight? I mean, who cares, right? Like,
Maybe.
I
You
don't
don't know
know.
what I do in my private time.
No, you might run into some Rangers fans and want to have at it. But speaking of jerseys, another good one. Jeff P from Pennsylvania said he got one Christmas. He got a Brett Hull authentic jersey, a Vladislav Tretiak jersey, and my high school varsity jacket all in the same year. Huge morning. So yeah, I mean that's pretty awesome. I mean, especially getting something like a Tretiak jersey, because most hockey fans, I think, are going to get, a jersey of their either like whoever the superstar is at the time, like Crosby or Gretzky or Lemieux, like that big name superstar, or they're going to get their local hero. But to get somebody like when you get like an international jersey like that, I mean, I feel like your hockey fandom has transcended. You know what I mean? Like you're not just a fan of your team or the NHL, you're a fan of hockey and like the bigger picture. So I think that's awesome.
Right, and that's kind of what I was thinking when I read that is either this guy grew up in Russia, or he's from the Summit Series era where that name would have been prevalent, um, or his parents raised him very, very well.
Yeah.
I would go with one of those.
I mean, at
But
16, I would have loved a Tretiak jersey. I would have just been like, this is badass. You know what I mean? Because, and not only that, but I would have been like obscure. Like nobody would have known who it was. And I would be like, oh, Tretiak. Well, actually, they would have known him because at that time he was the goalie coach in Chicago.
well, either of those would have been awesome. But even the high school varsity jacket, I remember how much those cost when I went to high school. They were probably more than the jerseys.
Did you play football?
No, I was in band.
Oh, okay. Well, I wish I was in
I
band.
I lettered in band.
So what? That's something.
I guess.
I lettered
I,
in nothing.
I never bought a jacket though. Nor did I buy a yearbook for that matter, or a class ring. I wasn't one of them kind of people.
The class
Not that
ring,
there's anything wrong with that.
the class ring seems silly. I like the yearbooks. We just got the yearbooks. They didn't. I don't think we bought them. They were just given to us.
We had to buy ours.
Yeah, I remember like uh, uh yeah, the yearbooks I remember, the class rings I just looked in, like I was just like I want to buy this class ring, and my mom was like, "Well, are you going to really wear it once you graduate high school?" I'm like, "No, good point." And that was it, That was the end of the conversation. And then when I graduated high school, I was like, "Man, I hated high school. I love college." The end. If I could get a class ring for like the year I graduated college, I would like actually consider that, just because college was just like, I mean, I can look back at it fondly and not and reminisce, and I'd be like, yeah, that was some good times. High school was just that was just the preseason. That's just shit you have to get through to get to the part you really want to get to.
There you go. You know, I did think of another hockey related present that I got. It was 94, and my girlfriend at the time bought me for Christmas a replica Penguins jersey. But no number on the back, no
Okay.
name. It was
Mhm.
blank on the back, but it was the your favorite incarnation of the Penguins logo.
The conceited swan.
The conceited swan, yes. And I have that jersey still to this day. I still own it. It's still in my closet, and occasionally I still pull it out and wear it. And shockingly enough, I feel like it still fits.
Good.
I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I don't care. I think it still fits. So
You could get 30 and then Tulliver as the name on the back.
I could. I
That would
definitely could.
out obscure everybody except for the people who go, oh yeah, he's the goalie in sudden death.
Yes.
That
Yes, he
wasn't Tom
was.
Barrasso, but played by Jay Caulfield.
Exactly. The man who never smiles. Um, so we had another comment by, I believe it's pronounced Lizane, I think, at 44 Wheels. Um, she says, my parents bought me a factory sealed set of O-Pee-Chee hockey from 83 on. Even as a 10-year-old, I never opened them and still unopened today. Before 83, I got packs either way. They were my favorite, spelled with a U, Christmas present, and I still get some for Christmas today. So that's pretty cool. I was looking at her post on that one.
Are you sure
She,
Lizane's her?
yeah,
Okay.
Just based off of some of the things that is posted on there.
Okay.
She's from Calgary and apparently a big Oilers fan. I don't know what that's got to be like, but I can't imagine it's very good being an Oilers fan in Calgary. It's probably brutal.
It's like
The only
being a Red
thing,
Wings fan in Chicago. You just
yeah,
don't do that.
the only thing worse than being an Oilers fan in Calgary is being an Oilers fan in Edmonton, especially this time of year. What's it like? 18 degrees there probably, which would be like -8 in their language.
I
So
think according to Ilya Bezgralov, it's like -30 degrees.
it could be, it could
It's
be.
like -30 degrees. Yeah.
But she commented after the fact. She apparently bought a, which I'm assuming is an 0506 Upper Deck set because she mentioned it had the Crosby rookie in it, which I guess it could be any of the sets that came out that year. But
Right.
I'm going to assume it was the Upper Deck set, and she bought it for her 4-year-old nephew at the time, who didn't open theirs either. So, I mean, my aunts are cool, but not that cool.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and then David Panopoulos from Toronto said, my first set was a 1985 set, the Lemieux rookie year. I was only 3 at the time, but got a set each year until O-Pee-Chee left the hobby for a while. I opened, though, and put in a binder when older. And then also Jim from Buffalo, a.k.a. 2 Minutes for Hockey on Twitter, said, every year I can remember, and continues to this day, meaning he's gotten hockey cards every year as far back as he can remember. No matter what fads came and went, hockey cards were a constant. So there's a couple more people. I mean, getting a complete set, that's pretty damn cool for Christmas.
Heck yeah, it is. Now, Deepan on his, if you follow him on Twitter, he's another big Pens collector. He's a great all-around guy, from what I can tell. I mean, I've talked to him a few times, but never met him in person.
Mm-hmm.
But so I wouldn't necessarily call him a rival collector, as that would infer that our collections are very similar. But comparably, I think my collection would be a pawn on the chessboard of his awesomeness as far as what he has penguin wise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the comment from you said Jim from Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
He, what, 2 minutes for hockey? That's what he goes by, I believe,
Yep.
on Twitter.
Yep.
He used to have a blog, I thought.
Yeah, that was what it was called.
Okay, and it kind of went on hiatus, I guess.
He got busy with family, so
okay.
he had to put it on hiatus.
I know that used to be on the blog roll over on the Real DFG page.
Oh yeah.
But I will say this: he did have one of my favorite tweets of the moment a few days ago, where he made the comment that Ben Roethlisberger looks like Yukon Cornelius with his giant beard that he grew. So, to give you another Christmas reference, yeah, I thought that was pretty funny because it's true.
So I didn't get this as a full set for Christmas, but I remember I want to say it was Christmas of '93, and this was right at the height of when I was promoting and organizing this monthly card show in my neighborhood. There was a church about 2 blocks away from my grandma's house. My grandma used to go there every weekday for a luncheon. Before the luncheon, there would be like a senior citizen exercise class. So she'd go there, she'd do the exercise class, and then have lunch. It was like $1, senior lunch for like $1. And then afterwards, like some of the seniors would hang out and play cards with each other. So it was just kind of like something for the older people to do. And I remember the priest there was, he put together a card and comic book show. And this was in like end of 91, I want to say, or early 92, if I remember. And the show wasn't successful that first month, but I said to him, I said, hey, let me promote this. And he let me promote it. And it became a really good show for a while. We used to get a lot of people coming there. I used to set up 2 tables and sell lots of stuff. And so one day the priest, Father John, he comes to me and he says, I found these hockey cards and I don't know what they're worth. And, I know you have a price guide. Can you just, can you look them up for me, or can I borrow a price guide? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to rip them off and say, oh, they're not worth anything. It was a bunch of 71, 72 tops. And I just looked through them really quickly and I just said, oh, this Ken Dryden rookie card, that's a good card. And then the rest of them were like maybe commons or whatever. And I probably had all of those cards anyway. And he just said to me, he's like, well, if you ever want any of them, I'll just sell them to you for low book or half of low book or whatever. Like he was a comic book collector, so he understood the whole price guide dynamic. He wasn't like trying to get top dollar. It was just kind of more like he didn't really want them, and so he would have sold them to me for a deal. And I said, all right, that's cool, you know. And I just kind of forgot about it because I probably had them already. I had other things on my mind. It was like, you know, around Christmas time. And then I know like that Christmas, my grandma gave me this little, like a little box, like almost like a little jewelry box, like a little gold colored box, like 2-piece. And I open it up and there's the Ken Dryden rookie card in a top loader. She had bought it from Father John and gave it to me, not because I needed it for my set, but she knew that I would like to have another one. You know what I mean? And I just thought, and I could have probably bought it myself at the time, because I was making pretty good money doing these shows, you know, enough that I could have flipped them 20 or 40 bucks for a card. But it was just such a nice gesture. I don't know if she bought the other commons also and gave them to me. I don't remember, but I do remember getting that Ken Dryden card in just like a little jewelry box, like what you'd give like a pendant or a necklace in. And I still have that card. I mean, I have it set aside with like my good cards because the one that I bought is in the page with the other cards, and then the one that she gave me has just been set aside for all these years, and I'm still very fond of it. So I that made me really happy just to get that. That was just such a cool thing. Like that was an example of it's a card I already have, but I don't care. I was so happy to get another one, and I was just so touched by it. And you know, years later, I'm like really still really happy about it. I mean, it was a nice gift. It was a thoughtful gift.
That's a very thoughtful gift, and it's kind of what this is all about. You know, the fact that you get something from somebody, and they really know you as a collector, and they know this is something that you would really enjoy to have. Um, and we had a comment from the Philly Puck fan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Said every year from 1981 until I graduated high school, there was a box of O-Pee-Chee or Topps hockey cards under the tree. In the 86-87 year, Mom got my brother and I bikes and joked that she could have gotten away with hockey cards only. And she was right. Now, normally I'd scoff at anything that Philly fan said, but that's a really cool story. Um, because if you consider the monetary conversion of hockey card to bicycle value, I mean, especially looking back on that 86, 87, that's
Yeah.
not bad. And considering he has 81 until he graduated, so is that 80, 81 or 81, 82? Because then there wouldn't have been one of those brands available.
No, for those 2 years, yeah. It was 82, 83.
82, 83. That's right.
Right.
That's
So
right. That's right.
maybe that's what he meant. Maybe he got O-Pee-Chee in 82, 83 and 83, 84.
It
Because
could be.
there weren't Topps cards that year, but the card shops in Chicago were selling or in the United States were selling O-Pee-Chee cards.
I got
And I
you.
know
That
this
makes
from
sense.
yeah, I know this from a dealer that I talked to, and he collected probably from like 1970 to like probably like 93 or 94, and he said that oh yeah, that those 2 years there were tons of O-Pee-Chee. And those are always the O-Pee-Chee years that I can find that I was able to find easily in the secondary market. Like if I go to a shop and I'm like, you got any old O-Pee-Chee cards? They'd be like, oh yeah, and they'd all be like 82, 83, and 83, 84.
I got you. Well, it's not his fault that he cheers for the wrong team, but I will say this. He has as his profile pick an old Premier Black Gold Eric Lindros card, so I can't hate on that. So that was a good story.
Well, here's a story about somebody who got a different type of memorabilia for Christmas. So Stephen Ellis from Oakville, Ontario, told me. He said a family friend of ours had a chair from the Montreal Forum. I loved it, even though I was born a few months after the rink closed down. I was a big Habs fan, so I just thought it was the greatest. I want to say it was about 8 years ago they gifted it to me. I sat in it every day, either to watch TV or play games for years. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah, I can't imagine that being the most comfortable chair. But if I had a chair from the old Montreal Forum, I would use it as my gaming chair. You know what I mean? Like that's just badass.
It may not have been the most comfortable looking, but if you're a fan, something like that, you sit in it, that is the most comfortable chair. That's the awesome chair. I wouldn't allow anybody to sit in it but myself.
Okay. And I've even seen like I've gone to a few autograph signings where like I see the same guy in Chicago and he has two Chicago stadium seats and he has them mounted to a board and he'll just wheel them into the shop, get them signed by the players and then just like wheel them out and he's got like tons of autographs on them. It's pretty cool. Like any player who played during the Chicago stadium era, obviously. Um but yeah, that's a pretty awesome gift to get because like those Montreal Canadiens seats were not just given away. They auctioned those off. And it wasn't just
Right.
like buy one for $50. It was probably some sort of an auction or something. Well, I don't know. If you have 18,000 seats, I guess maybe you don't want to do 18,000 auctions, but I'm not saying they were cheap.
Yeah, and I don't imagine they would be. I knew a guy that had a whole, not a whole row, but five seats from the old Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh
Oh wow.
when they imploded that back in the day. Um, and I don't know where he got them. I never asked him where he got them from, but I imagine he either bought them directly at a sale when they were clearing everything out before they blew up the building, or got them later on in an auction somewhere.
Before they blew up the building.
Yeah, which they did. They imploded it.
I heard.
It's it. The parking lot that's there now is where the stadium used to be. So
Yeah. It's kind of weird how that is. Yeah, I mean, I remember, one regret I have, like I used to go to a lot of Blackhawk games as a kid, and I regret not taking more pictures. I didn't get into photography until my first year of college. So this would have been like spring of '94. I took a photography class. And honestly, that was the last year of the Chicago Stadium. So I remember taking my camera with me to the game and taking a bunch of pictures, but just of like the scoreboard and trying to get player pictures that just didn't come out and just trying to get like pictures and stuff like that. But I wish I got more pictures of just the space, the lobby, the ticket line, the ticket window, the concession area, um, that sort of stuff. I wish I had taken pictures of that because when you went as a kid and you just kind of take it for granted that it's always going to be there and then it's gone and then you want to remember, you kind of wish you could remember those little details that you just overlooked for many years.
yeah, as many times as I went to Three Rivers, I
Hmm.
mean, I still remember it. But I'll tell you what, I've been to both of the new stadiums, Heinz Field and PNC Park, and whew, they are they're nice.
Yeah,
They're definitely nice. So I mean, there's something to be said for newer and better. But yeah, there is something kind of nostalgic, and it gives you all the feels when you have those old stadiums and old barns and memories of them.
yeah.
I
So
have those feelings about the old Civic Arena in Pittsburgh.
yeah, I would have liked to have seen a game there too.
It was cool. It was small, but it was fun. It was definitely intimate and loud.
Huh.
That's for sure.
So I got a story here. Actually, so a gentleman who goes by the Twitter name of NY Pinstripe 67. He's from Denver. Even though it says New York Pinstripe 67 is his Twitter name, but that's okay. Takes all kinds.
Probably a
Um,
Yankee.
what's that?
I said I'm sure he's a Yankee fan.
Well, Yankee fans can be everywhere, are everywhere. So he said, my mother somehow got her hands on a Dave Taylor autographed broken game used stick. Given our financial health during my childhood, this was a big deal. I ended up converting it to a roller hockey stick at some point. If I knew then what I know now. So he got this stick that was autographed by Dave Taylor, the former Kings player and former Kings captain, part of the Triple Crown line. So I mean, one of the greats on the Kings, um, and it was an autographed game used stick, but he ended up using it as a roller hockey stick.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that that happened. When you're a kid, you don't really perceive value, and I see it with my own kids nowadays and other kids, their friends, and so on and so forth. And there's that whole what is a dollar really worth, kind of mentality. Um,
Well, I think with
they
the
they
kid,
don't know, they don't understand.
it's
To
got to
you, it's
be.
a hockey stick. Yeah, this guy signed it. It's pretty cool. I need a hockey stick. Here's a hockey stick. Go. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
it's
Like,
not a wall hanger to them.
can I use it? Can
Right.
I do something with it? Can
Right.
I enjoy it some way? Because as a kid, sometimes especially how young you are, it's hard to enjoy something just by looking at it. You know what I mean? It needs to be something that you like. I mean, even if you think of like kids with cards, they used to play with them. They used to throw them. They used to trade them. They used to, have all these different like games like knockdowns and topsies and stuff like that. So they were things that you would do something with. You didn't just look at them, put them in a sleeve and a top loader and say, I have it.
Right.
Right. So with the sticks, but I actually got a stick story that I want to share. I want to say this was 1990. Um, my aunt had she wrapped for me. I don't even know if she wrapped it. It was just, yeah, it had to be wrapped. It was a 6-foot box. It actually was funny. Like the box was like, I don't know how wide. It was like pretty like normal width of a box, like maybe 2 feet wide, but it was 6'4" because I busted out the tape measure and I measured the box from top to bottom. And I said, "Is Mario Lemieux in this box?" Because he's 6'4" and this box was 6'4". And then I'd shake the box and it made a really weird sound and I couldn't figure out what it was. Right? No idea. Well, finally, when I get to open it on Christmas Day, it was two game used autograph hockey sticks. One was of Jocelyn Lemieux, who I greatly enjoyed watching as a kid. I
So you were partially right with Lemieux.
yeah, okay. Well, it was a Lemieux stick, but it was Jocelyn Lemieux. I remember it was funny the day that the Blackhawks acquired Jocelyn Lemieux. My aunt, like, she just came into the dining room and she said to me, my sister are sitting there, and she said the Blackhawks acquired Lemieux, and I looked up and I said Claude Lemieux, and my sister looked up and said Mario Lemieux, and then my aunt said Jocelyn Lemieux, and then my sister and I both in unison said Jocelyn Lemieux. Like, who's
Who
that?
who's she?
But Jocelyn Lemieux was actually one of my favorite Blackhawks. I mean, he was a tough winger. He could fight, he
Yeah, he
could
could.
score. I mean, he could hit. He was a good solid player. I liked having him on the team. I was bummed when they traded him to Hartford. But anyway, so one stick was Jocelyn Lemieux, and the other stick was Dirk Graham's. And Dirk Graham was like my first
Oh,
favorite
very nice.
Blackhawk because he was the team captain. He was a hard worker, and I just remember reading up on him and how he like slogged around in the minors for like 6 or 7 years, and now he's like the Blackhawks team captain. And I'm just like, wow, this guy's cool. And I mean, when Chelios came along, he eventually became my favorite Blackhawk. But at the time, Graham was just like that player that I looked up to. So I got these.
Outstanding facial hair, by the way.
Oh yeah, that mustache, man. His coaching was another story, but yeah, the him as a player, I mean, he was a beast. I mean, you'll even remember in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals, he scored a hat trick in a losing effort for the Blackhawks.
Sure did.
I mean,
That was one of the only bright spots on that
for the Blackhawks.
for the Blackhawks during that series.
I mean, it's sad because I mean that should have been enough to motivate a win. Like when your team captain gets a hat trick, and they just couldn't do it. But man, he was a beast that game. So what I wanted to say was, what's funny about that is my aunt had these sticks since October. we went to, she was a season ticket holder. She won them at a season ticket holder luncheon. There was like a raffle or a drawing or whatever. And so she got these 2 sticks. And then when we went later that month, at the end of October every year, they would have something called Skate with the Hawks. It was like the precursor to the Black Hawk Convention, where like literally like maybe 300 people would show up, maybe less than 500 people. I mean, it was a very manageable number. It was always held at a local rink, and they'd give you a badge, and it would be your time to be on the ice or out in the lobby, and then you would just, if you were in the lobby, you'd walk up to a player, get an autograph, or some of them would be sitting at a table, and you'd walk up to the table and get autographs. Or if they were on the ice, you'd skate around with them, skate up to them, get autographs. And so my aunt managed to get these 2 sticks signed without me knowing about it. Like, I was there, but they kept sending me on a wild goose chase, because like my aunt would say, "Oh, Dirk Graham is on the ice," and I'd be like, "Oh, Dirk Graham, I need to get his autograph." So I'd go over to the ice looking for him. Or like, I was like, I don't know, I was off the ice, and then like someone like my mom was like, "Oh, Troy Murray's that way." I'm like, "Oh, Troy Murray, yeah, I want to get his autograph." You know what I mean? So they were just kind of like leading me around so that I wouldn't see my aunt getting the sticks signed. And then she even said there was like a time when like I just stepped out in the parking lot, maybe I had my skate guards on, and my aunt was like right by the car, and she threw the sticks under the car because she didn't see them. So they went through all these
Nice.
extreme lengths to get these sticks signed. I was kind of gullible as like a 14 or 15-year-old. Oh, okay, cool. He's over there. I'll go over there, And so I think that was even funnier. I mean, it was one thing to win the sticks and give them to me. It was another thing to go through this grand effort to get them autographed. But it was another thing to like do it under my nose. And like it was funny because my aunt and my aunt's friend were like, my aunt's friend was like, "I felt so bad for lying to you." Like, no, it's okay. And I actually I had those hanging in my room as a kid. I mean, those hung like all my years of high school. I had those sticks hanging on my wall, and it was just so badass, and I still have them to this day.
Nice. At least you didn't use them.
No, 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 no. Far from it.
Well, we got we had an interesting comment from which I found amusing.
Okay.
From 1929 NHL tweets.
Oh.
Who goes by at 1929 hockey, and he responded, "I caught Lionel Conacher's tooth once." To which you asked him if he threw it back, and his response was, "Throwing anything at Lionel Conacher is a bad idea. Mama didn't raise no fool," which I got a chuckle out of, because if you're not following this account and you're a hockey fan, do so, because it's quite entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, essentially, it's if in 1929 Twitter existed, this is the account the NHL has, and it
Mm-hmm.
basically gives updates and everything on what was going on in the hockey world back then.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very entertaining to read. And also, if you don't know who Lionel Conacher is and you're listening to this, look him up, because uh, you know, the big train, as they called him, he terrorized the early NHL with his sheer athleticism. This guy he was known as a football player,
Mm-hmm.
but he played hockey. He's the reason why I really know who he is because he scored the very first goal that the Pittsburgh Pirates recorded against the Boston Bruins
Mm-hmm.
when they joined the NHL back in 1925. They used to be called the Yellow Jackets, and he played for them and was one of the first well-known amateur players that decided when the team went pro that he was going to go pro with them
Mm-hmm.
and actually get paid to play. So
Mm-hmm.
he's very significant in NHL history. So if people didn't know who they were or understood that comment, that's a guy to look up. But yeah, check out that Twitter page, because it's very entertaining to read.
What was that Twitter ID again?
It's at 1929 hockey. So those listening, check that out. And it's a very entertaining look at a kind of a different angle to hockey.
Yeah, what hockey was like 100 or 90 years ago. So speaking of another I think our last I got one more story, but I'm going to share this guy's story first. We could talk about this. So Bruce C from Edmonton said, I received an Arthur's Herbe game used Carolina Hurricane stick for Christmas so many years ago. It was so exciting. That was also the moment I began my goalie museum project. Today I own game-worn memorabilia of approximately 21% of all the goalies in NHL history. And he has a website called bcgoaltendingmuseum.com where he showcases some of the different game-worn equipment and memorabilia in his goalie collection. So it's cool that, like, here's an example of, like, a gift that inspired, like, a lifelong passion. Like, he was into hockey, but this gift made his fandom go to the next level, where he was just like, oh my God, this is awesome, and I want to, continue collecting game-worn memorabilia.
Yeah, and this collection is amazing. I didn't really know much about it. I mean, if you like looking at jerseys and hockey history and especially goaltenders, you'll get your fill on this site. So if you haven't checked it out, again, it was bcgoaltendingmuseum.com. Head over there to their website, check out what's going on. They've done shows. I know that they had said that this was like their 6th summit show that they did up in Alberta back in April. And I'll tell you some of the pictures and displays of everything. It's really, really cool. Well done.
He has a blocker from Christian Soucy, who played exactly 3 minutes for the Chicago Blackhawks back in 94, I believe. Which, I mean, obviously he wore it in the minors also, but that's pretty
crazy.
Cool. That's just a pretty cool thing. Like, okay, like this guy who played 3 minutes of a game. Okay, yeah. I got his blocker.
He's played only 3 minutes more than I have for the Blackhawks.
And I got a Toronto Maple Leafs Glenn Healy game-worn jersey. It's got a lot of cool stuff. bcgoaltendingmuseum.com. Check it out.
Yeah, definitely go and check out some of what he's got.
Oh wow, this is actually pretty cool. I'm looking at this. He has a man, the hockey world is small. He has a Anaheim Mighty Ducks Greg Nemenko game-worn home jersey, and you're saying who is Greg?
I saw that. I saw that was like one of the first things I looked at.
Because it's at the top, Anaheim Ducks, right? Well, the thing is that I know Greg Nemenko. I know his brother Russ. His brother Russ manages a rink that I play at, and Greg manages a different rink. And I actually met him, and he told me his stories about playing for the Ducks, how he was on the bench for like 70 games, but he only played like 2 games. He was also called up by the Devils a couple years later as a backup. He also played for Team USA in the World Championships. So, like, this is like a pretty cool thing because this guy didn't play a lot of games. And this is a jersey from his only start. I mean, he probably wore it on the bench a lot of times, but I mean, that's pretty damn cool to have something like that. Like like maybe it's cooler to have a jersey of a player who's played in more games because there's more significance to it. But I think there's something equally as cool as having, this guy played 1 game and here's his jersey,
Well, the sheer rarity of it is enormous considering how many jerseys and pieces of uniforms and stuff are floating around out there these days of regulars that play all the time. I mean, this isn't like the old days where, the guy, you go out there with your sweater and at the end you throw your sweater in the basket and it gets washed and everything else, and there's your sweater waiting for you. And the next day it's the same one, and the day after that it's the same one, and so on and so forth. And you may have 1 or 2 sweaters that you wear through the whole season, right, and they just get washed and used over and over again. Today it's like guys get a new jersey almost every game.
Right. Or like in the case of Gretzky's final game, he was changing his jersey every shift,
Yeah,
from what I understand, because
I've heard that story too.
they knew what they were doing. I mean,
Right.
um,
Exactly.
you have like players will have like 6 jerseys for the 7 Stanley Cup games that they play. Like they'll have like a home uniform, a road uniform, like a couple copies of each, and they'll wear like this jersey for like game 1 and 2, and then that's it. And then they'll wear this one for game 3 and 4, and that's it. And then they'll wear one for like game maybe 5 and 7, or I mean I don't know. Like they change them out. So I mean, is a game worn Sidney Crosby jersey? It's cool to have, but when there's maybe 100 of them from the past season, I'm exaggerating. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
100, but
No, I know what you're saying. Plus, there's practice jerseys that are different. Warm-up jerseys are different. I mean, it's endless. It's not, like I said, it's not like the old days.
it's cool when you see like an old jersey that's really taken a beating and has repairs and stuff like that.
That's why I like um, that in the game year in hockey
Mm-hmm.
card that I pulled way back when of Guy Lafleur, where it's got the old school patch piece on. You can tell it's from the old jersey, and it looks tattered. It even looks stained. I don't know if it's a blood stain or what, but
Mm-hmm.
there's some kind of stain on it, and it came right out of the pack like that. It's like these guys had like a piece of history here, and here it's stuck in this card. You don't see that these days.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so my last personal hockey story, because I think we went through all of these on the list here. Yes. Um so this wasn't really a memorabilia thing, but this was just like one of those things that I always wanted. So I got into hockey in spring of '89 when I accidentally put on the wrong channel and caught the end of a Blackhawks game. And I was like instantly hooked. And by like fall of '89, like I was so hooked and I was so into hockey. And my aunt was like, "Oh yeah, I used to like hockey in the '70s." And then she and my uncle got season tickets that fall. So it was kind of funny how I kind of became this catalyst for like the whole family got into hockey because I got into hockey. My sister got into hockey because I got into hockey. My mom and my aunt got back into hockey because I got into hockey. So I was kind of like the catalyst for that. So I remember one thing that they used to advertise in the game programs at the Blackhawks game. They'd give out Goal magazine, which would be like which was an actual magazine, but then there'd be like some additional pages inside that were specific to the Blackhawks, like specific articles and rosters and stuff like that. And they would advertise. I'd see the advertisement in Goal magazine a lot. It was for the Wayne Gretzky overtime hockey table hockey game. Do you remember that game?
Yes, yes,
It
I
had the
do.
3D
I
figures.
was gonna say those figures. Yeah.
Now, back in the 80s, now my mom and aunt had a table hockey game from like the 60s and 70s. It was an old Coleco table hockey game that had the metal guys where the it was like the metal the images of the players were stamped on the metal. This is before they switched over to the plastic guys with the stickers. So these were
Right.
the flat metal hockey guys. So
I
tape
actually have one of those in my Penguins collection.
really
Yeah, I have the goalie that looks like Les Binkley,
nice.
but it's not because they all have the same faces. But yeah, with the old Penguins jersey, I have the little mel. It's hard to store because it's not flat. But
It's not
yeah,
flat, yeah.
yeah,
Can't fit it in a page
no,
quite.
no,
No.
can't.
But so I had this we had this Coleco Blackhawk it said Chicago Blackhawks on the side, and it was Blackhawks versus Red Wings, and it was a table hockey game, and I used to love playing with that even when I didn't know what hockey was, when I couldn't see hockey on TV, when I knew that there was this team called the Blackhawks that existed, but I didn't know what they looked like and I didn't know what hockey really was. But I remember playing that table hockey game with my aunt or my grandma or my sister and just liking it. But then when I got into hockey, then that table hockey game was a lot more special. But then I would see this Gretzky one advertised, and there was a tabletop version and there was a deluxe version that was like something ridiculous, like 4 feet. I mean, it was pretty damn tall. And It had the 3D players, and then there was like an accessory pack that you could get that would have benches, glass, a clock, and a scoreboard that would just kind of clip to the sides of the boards. And so I remember in 1989, like my mom asking me, what would you like for Christmas? And I'd say the Wayne Gretzky overtime table hockey game. And I didn't get it in 89. And then in 1990, she asked me, what do you want for Christmas? And I told her the same thing. 1991, same thing. Didn't get it. 1992, asked for the same thing. Didn't get it. 1993, asked for it. Didn't get it again. 1994, my mom says to me, you've been asking for this thing for 5 years. And I said, yes. And every year I don't get it for Christmas. And she said to me, you're 19 years old. I'm not going to buy you a toy now. I said, Mom, I'm gonna keep asking for it. And also now it's on clearance at Gamers Paradise because it was like $130 toy. I mean, it was expensive.
Yeah.
A table hockey game might be like $60 at like Toys R Us, but this thing was like, it was like double that price.
No, I remember that because I saw they used to sell at the KB Toys in the mall. They used to sell the team box sets.
Yes.
And just those alone were expensive.
$20 for a pack.
Yeah.
I mean, and just to give a little bit of frame of reference, the Stiga table hockey figures today are about $20. I think they're about $20 a pack. So back then in like 1990 money, $20 back then was like $40 now. Like just adjusting for inflation. So this was not a cheap thing to ask for.
Right.
But it got marked down to something nuts like $39.99 or something at Gamers Paradise. And so I told my mom, or it might have been $80. I don't know. It was well under $100 by then. It was on its way out. And so I said to my mom said, you've been asking for this for every year and I'm not going to buy it for you. And I said, well, now's the time to buy it because now it's on clearance. So she's like, fine, I'll buy you that Gretzky table hockey game. And then she said, what else do you want for Christmas? And I said, I want the accessory pack with the boards, and the glass and the benches. It was like benches and a referee.
Yeah, they had a referee too. I remember that.
All he does is stand between the benches.
He doesn't do anything.
He just points. He stands on the benches. And then the benches were like, you could store like extra players there. And then there was like, what's it called? The clock was actually just like the numbers 0 through 9. And there was like a plastic slider that would just slide over what the score was, for the scoreboard rather. And the clock would just do like 5-minute periods, but it was kind of lame because it would do like 5 minutes. And then like it would flicker for like 30 seconds and then it would beep again and then it would start counting down. So it would do like 3 5-minute periods. It wasn't like super awesome, but it was cool. Like I was glad to get that for Christmas. And I got to tell you, like me and my friends played the hell out of that. I mean, because by then we were all like old. We were like, some of my friends were a couple years older than me and some were like a year or two older than me. So we're talking like teenagers to like early 20s, and we beat the hell out of that thing. We'd play it. We'd play tournaments, and the game took a beating. I mean, it was called the Quality Hockey Game, and it stood up. Like it did not break. It's funny. It was like I want to say that
it?
I still have it.
You have all the guys for it and everything.
Okay, that's another story, and that's a topic for another show. I will say this. I want to say like maybe a year later, my girlfriend at the time bought me some of the team packs because they were on clearance for $5 a pack. So she bought me like 2 packs of Blackhawks. No, wait, I had a pack of Blackhawks. I bought them even though I didn't have the table hockey game. I'm like, these are little Blackhawk figures. I want them. I bought them, right? So she's like, oh, you want some of those for your birthday or whatever? I'm like, sure. She's like, which ones do you want? I'm like, can you get me a Blackhawk pack and 2 packs of Sharks? And she's like, sure. So I was able to put 1 set of Sharks on the bench, 1 set of Sharks on the ice, 1 set of Blackhawks on the bench, 1 set of Blackhawks on the ice. When I become rich and eccentric, I will probably track down all of the teams. Some of them are hard as hell to find, especially like the teams that changed their uniforms in the early 90s, like the Penguins and the Stars, or expansion teams that came later on, like the Ducks, um, are harder to find. And what's really frustrating is that the Minnesota North Stars in the green uniforms sell for like $100 per team set. What's really frustrating about these is my local Toys R Us had hundreds of them. I think they got shipped to them by mistake because my local Toys R Us had North Stars and Flyers, which didn't make sense because we were Chicago. And I remember buying a pack of North Stars on clearance for like $3.99 just because I'm like, $4, I'll buy it. I don't think I even had the table game then. It was just the figures. And I'm just like, these are kind of cool. They're kind of like starting lineups, but smaller. Although they all kind of resemble Steve Smith when I look at them.
Is that what you thought?
Yeah, I thought especially the Oilers one kind of looks like Steve Smith, kind of.
Well,
just
they all had like the same. They all had like the same faces on them.
I know.
They like used the same model for all of them, and there was some weird looking dude where his eyes were too far apart, and he had this huge nose that took up half of his face. I always thought that the guys almost looked like what was the weird hairy armed chick that was in love with Popeye?
Olive Oil?
No.
Alice the Goon.
Alice the Goon. Yes.
Good Lord.
Yes. That was who they used for the model to make those.
I don't know. I mean, I was happy to finally get that game. But I wish I had gotten it when I was younger because one, I would have played it as far back, as soon as I got it. Like I got it at 19 and we played with it, me and my friends, and like I said, we beat the hell out of it, but it's still in awesome shape. I mean, it's a quality toy. But the other thing is like I would have bought all the team packs like slowly. Like I would have bought one a week or one every couple of weeks or something. And it was hard for me to want to buy the team packs if I didn't have the game. Once the game came out, I bought, I had a couple of the teams, but like I wasn't thinking like I'm going to collect them all at this point, even though Gamers Paradise had a markdown to $5 a team. And I should have just gone in and just bought everything. And I didn't. And I kind of regret that. I still have dreams. I still have the dream of going to KB Toys and finding like the Gretzky table hockey teams like on clearance for $3.99 a pack and just buying them all. Nice. Which is sad because we should have bigger dreams than buying toys from 30 years ago. But here we are.
Yeah, exactly. If only everything was kept mint from when we were kids, we'd all be retiring millionaires.
Right. Well, all those Lindros rookies I kept mint, but that didn't help.
Yeah. My pile of non-errored 90-91 Pro Set Yager cards haven't panned out well either.
So do you have any more Christmas stories, or are you tapped down on holiday cheer for the podcast?
No, I just like to make other people happy. I don't care if they give me what I want. I buy other people the presents.
That's good.
Especially these days.
Better to give than receive.
That's exactly right.
All right, then. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. You can find us on iTunes, a.k.a. Apple Music. You can find us on Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and like a ton of other podcast platforms. And we should be back in another week or so with our next podcast. But until then, thank you for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast, and have a happy Christmas, New Year, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate.
Happy Festivus.
For the rest of us.
For more hockey goodness, follow us on Twitter @PuckJunk.